All right, welcome back to Fanon International Boxing, where we are going to chop it up today about James Toney and his prediction for the Errol Spence Jr. versus Danny Garcia fight, which should be taking place on November 21st. Don't know where it's going to be, but it's going to be on Fox pay-per-view. Let's talk about what the legendary James Toney had to say about the fight in this video. All right, welcome back. So we going to continue to chop it up about this boxing. Boxing is coming back. It's a much more regular flow of fights going on. Good conversations about the sport of boxing, which is what this channel is about. And I think that this is another good topic to discuss. So thank you for supporting the channel and coming to listen to me. And I hope you, after the video is over, leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what you think. James Toney, who is one of my favorite fighters of all time, man. Just a terrific, God, man, I hate that phrase. He's one of my favorite fighters, one of my favorite retired fighters. He was a champion, I do believe, at 160, 168. I think he might have won a cruiserweight title and a heavyweight title. Man, just an absolute monster, man. One of these fighters that could stand right in front of you and you just couldn't touch him, right? Like one of the things that the late, great Nazim Richardson used to say, swim and don't get wet. That is James Toney, swimming and not getting wet, right there in the pocket, slipping shots, countering you, tearing you up, dude. Excellent, excellent fighter. So whatever he has to say about the sport of boxing, dude, I definitely listen to it and I respect the guy's opinion. It just so happens that in this one, I think that James Toney's a little bit off. So James Toney was working in Buddy McGirt's gym. That must be the new place that Ellie Sethback from ES News is recording and reporting the news. I like Ellie Sethback's channel, man. It's been a lot of really good content for a lot of years. So no slight on anybody, but he was talking to Ellie Sethback on ES News, and Ellie Sethback, being Ellie Sethback, was asking him questions, said, what do you think about this fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Danny Garcia? Who do you think is going to win? And James Toney is, in the middle of the ring, working on pad work, catching shots and all that stuff, and he turns around and says, picks Danny Garcia. He said, man, look, people want to keep giving all these guys credits before they have had, before they've accomplished something and done the stuff that they're supposed to do. So, I just think I'm paraphrasing. I think it's a little bit early for Errol Spence Jr. I'm picking Danny Garcia, who's got more experience and has been there and done it before. Very, 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 I just paraphrased that right now. James Toney, if you listen to James Toney often, it's kind of hard to understand James Toney sometimes. So that's about the best that I could get, the best that I can really get out of that. Now, this is the problem. Now, he ain't the only one to think this. I did a video yesterday where Amir Khan said he believed that it's a 50-50 fight. Terrence Crawford said that he thought it was a 50-50 fight because of the injury, right? So there's many people that think that this is a 50-50 fight. But that's not what James Toney gave an explanation that was completely different from the explanations that you got from like a Terrence Crawford or either maybe a Mikey Garcia. I don't know, Mikey Garcia. I don't think Mikey Garcia gave a prediction on it, but or at least not that I've heard. Or anyway, James Toney's position was not based on the car accident, right? Which is pretty much everybody else's. Like if Errol Spence Jr. is all the way back from his car accident, and it's true that he really did not get affected, and he's the same guy, then if that's the case, they would pick Errol Spence Jr. to win. But it's very hard for certain people to get over their head that you can get through their head that a car can flip over, that many times and just such a horrendous wreck that there wouldn't be any damage that would affect you in a sport that is as dangerous as boxing is. Because you really do have to have everything together, man. You can't come in there with everybody has certain injuries going into a fight, or a sporting event, period. You're going to have some pain. You're going to have some discomfort. But, that type of trauma to the body, it's reasonable for people to wonder whether that's the case. But James Toney's deal was more about the experience of Danny Garcia and what Danny Garcia has accomplished versus what Errol Spence Jr. has accomplished. And now, see, that's the thing. That's where I'm like, nah, James, I don't get that. I don't get that. Because if you look at who Danny Garcia's fought and you look at who Errol Spence Jr.'s fought, Danny Garcia has never beaten anybody of the caliber that people believe Errol Spence Jr. is. And Errol Spence Jr. has beaten multiple people that are on the level of a Danny Garcia, that have the experience level of a Danny Garcia. Like for example, a Kell Brook, Mikey Garcia, Sean Porter, and Lamont Peterson. All were that level of experience, right? Former champions, guys that have had big fights, guys that there's a lot of people think, matter of fact, Sean Porter beat Danny Garcia. And Lamont Peterson, a lot of people believe, beat Danny Garcia. So I don't really get the experience angle on it, because Kell Brook is the same level of fighter, if not I say he's the same level fighter of Danny Garcia. I don't think he's necessarily a higher level fighter. But Sean Porter, all those guys are right there. So I just think that he's really misinformed in this regard. Now, one thing that people don't bring up about Danny Garcia, by the way, I do these videos talking about people saying that they think Danny Garcia can win the fight. I don't think he's going to win the fight, right? Trust me, I do not believe that he's going to win that fight. I think that it is a dangerous fight for him, as Danny Garcia is a dangerous fight for anyone. But if Errol Spence Jr. just watches that, if he watches that kind of blind left hook and he's boxing from the outside and he just tries to win on points, I think he's going to beat the guy straight away. But one of the things that I will say, that if James Toney had mentioned this thing, I would have been like, oh, okay, yeah, I see that he's been giving this some real thought. And that's the fact that Danny Garcia is very good with upsets. Like, he hasn't had an upset at welterweight when he fought Sean Porter and when he fought Keith Thurman. But the second half of the fight, I think Danny Garcia won the second half of the fight against both Sean Porter and Keith Thurman. But what he did do is, in 140 pounds, he's had a lot of upsets. So significant upsets. So he could very well feel and be in a position where he always feels legitimately like he's got a chance to beat a guy, because he's been in this situation before. For example, Amir Khan, the same Amir Khan that thought the fight with Errol Spence Jr. and Danny Garcia is a 50-50 fight. I did a video about that yesterday. He thinks he knocked out Amir Khan in what was a big upset at the time, man. Amir Khan was coming over from the UK. It's kind of like a precursor to, it's the same thing, I guess. They did it with Ricky Hatton, did it with Nazim Richardson, Prince Nazim. Then you did it with trying to do it with Tyson Fury, which is, bring UK fighters over to the United States and build up, so you can take advantage of both the fan base in the UK and develop a new fan base and get the higher ticket sales, the higher prices for pay-per-views, all that stuff, in the United States, because more money comes out of the big fights in the United States than it does in the UK. But the UK has just a really active boxing culture and a lot, and a heavy participation in the sport of boxing from the fans. So, they try to figure out how to work a way around it or to take advantage of that. And Amir Khan was one of those guys. He's had all of the hype that you hear from, is just a ton of hype around Amir Khan. But Danny Garcia knocked him out. Also, same thing with Lucas Matisse. Lucas Matisse, who I believe is from Argentina, they were like, this is the best, like this is the best 140 pounder. I think because he knocked out Lamont Peterson. He was going on a knockout. He was basically going on a knockout streak. Danny Garcia got him. Danny Garcia didn't knock him out, but Danny Garcia beat him up and won that fight going away, right? So him having been in those situations before, have overcome people when the odds were against him, can give some confidence to Danny Garcia heading into the fight. And so maybe, if James Toney is taking that angle, the experience plus, his ability to create upsets, I've been okay. But nah, I'm really not feeling it. But James Toney, you the man. No doubt about it. You are the absolute man. Anyway, that's my take on the situation. You let me know what you think in the comment section. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, like, share the video. Make sure you hit the thumbs up for the video. Also, thank you to everybody that supports on Patreon, members of the channel, and in the live streams that we do Monday through Friday. And with that, I'm out. Peace.